Okay, I'm going to try and show you how to use enumerations and the switch statement to make useful menus. You can also use them for other things. They're not just limited to this, but I figure I can tie the two topics together in a nice concise video by doing this. So let's just make and we'll make a directory called enum switch because we're going to learn about enumerations and the switch statement. And I'll just make enum switch.c. Okay, we have a file. We've got our main down here. Okay, so up here is where I'll put the enumeration. The enumeration is invoked by the keyword enum. I have a snippet set so that it opens up with the correct syntax ready for me to go. So I'm just going to make put some values in and just sort of show you how it works. So maybe a second, and we say third, and I think that's fine. Yeah, cool. That's just a little compile script that I have that compiles it inside of Vim. All right, so here we'll do a little print statement, and I'll just say %d and write first, and then I'll write the same thing. Actually, you know what? I'll just go here and change the word to second, and then the other one to third. All right, so if you run that, you see we get 0, 1, 2. You'll also notice that it is a %d type, which means that enums produce integers. So if we got top and I try to, let's actually just try and set a value first to the first one. So if I say equals 3, just for that, and I set it first equal to 3 and I run it again, you'll see that we get 3, 4, and 5. So it thinks that first is evaluated to number 3, second is evaluated to number 4, and third. So you can see it's an enumeration. It's enumerating from the first value. But really, first should correspond to the number 1. So if we run that, we see that we have 1, 2, and 3 down here, right? So that all works dandily. So enumerations are for basically producing sequences of integers. You can use them so that you can create readable code that has constant values but switches amongst them for a menu. So that's what we're going to do today. But they're not just limited to that. We can also, I'll just try and show you, you can't set a string to an enumeration constant. You get this value here. Enumerated value for first is not an integer constant. So there we go. So it doesn't work like that. All right, so we'll undo that and just put that back. Yep, cool. All right, so we're in business. And let's make a switch statement. But hopefully we understand enumerations a little bit. All right, so if we want to make a switch statement, we might need a variable to make a decision based on. We'll scan in that variable and it'll be an integer because we want to make a choice on an integer. And then we want to say store that in choice. And okay, so what is this doing? We'll say, we'll say here, your choice was %d, and then we'll say choice. All right, so your choice was, okay, it's producing a random number because we're just allocating memory. But let's run the actual binary itself. Okay, your choice was 5. I've got a bit of a buggy name there, but anyway, your choice was 5. So you can see if we run it again, we might have 66, and anything up to a value that an integer can hold, right? So I think the standard integer value is 4 bytes on most machines, so that's the 32-bit int. So it would be something 60,000, I think, is the top value. So let's go back into enum switch and let's create ourselves a menu. Let's get rid of that for now, and instead we'll make this switch statement and we'll say we're going to switch over the choice. All right, so the idea is that you will provide a integer and it will, depending on what the value of that integer is, it will choose a decision. So let's at first just take case and we'll say first, we'll say you selected %d, and we can say first, and then we can say down here case again, and we can go second, and we'll say printf you selected %d second, and then I think we have a third as well, don't we? So we'll say third as well. And you'll notice that there's actually colons after the case statement, which means that it's a little bit different syntax than we're probably used to. We'll also notice that there are these breaks here, right? Breaks basically just means it breaks out of the switch menu after it completes the line below the case. So let's just say that we have this now, and we'll go run that. All right. So we'll run inside of that. Let's enter a value. We have 1, 2, and 3 that are valid options, don't we? So we'll enter 1. You selected 1. 2. You selected 2, and 3. You selected 3. All right. What happens when we try and invoke an option that's not there? Nothing happens. All right, so maybe you want a default response that actually says, okay, you've entered something that I don't have an option for. Or maybe there's a default response that, or maybe that 1, 2, and 3 are special cases, and then there's a default response that you usually do. So we'll go back into enum switch, down the bottom, and here we'll just write default. Cool. And here we'll try. This is the default response. No valid choice. Cool, and that should do it. We'll go back in and we'll say, oh, no, hang on. Let's go back in and recompile. So we'll say run that. Cool, and then go back here, run the binary, and if we just enter G, this is the default response, no valid choice. All right, but if we run it again, 1, you selected 1, 2, you selected 2, and 3, you selected 3. Okay, so you can see that if, for example, we have back in here, instead of printing out just what they select, which is kind of a useless application of what we just learned, you could instead say menu option 1, right? And you could say menu option 2, menu option 3. All right, and then we go back out. Cool. Menu option 1, menu option 2, menu option 3. So it's a useful way to create menus inside of a program, or to switch amongst different use cases of a certain part of the program. Hopefully that you found that useful, both enumerations and the switch statement. Just be certain to actually go in here and put the break below each case, right? Because if we actually delete these breaks, you'll notice something interesting happens. So let's get rid of that. We have to compile it. The classic problem. All right, I just do that because it's a bit quicker than doing GCC and blah, blah, blah. All right, if we invoke this and I say put in 4, which is like going to go to our default response, we get the default response, no problem. But then if I now choose 3, we get menu option 3, but we also get the default response, okay? And interestingly enough, if we go back up and we press menu option 1, we get all of the options. So what's happening is that if you don't have those break statements, what you end up doing is that you end up not breaking out of the menu. So you have it essentially, if you select first, it'll come here, it'll execute this line, and if break isn't there, it'll just go, okay, yeah, cool, case second, case third, and then default. So below each one, it's a bit hacky, really, now that I really think about it. You have to have a break statement to say, actually break out of this conditional and go back to outside of the scope of these braces. So put these back, and we should have a nice function. functioning program. We don't really need a break statement below default because there's nothing below default, but in case we add anything later, we'll just put it there. Okay. And we'll recompile and just make sure that everything is working as expected. Okay, and there we have it. And there, and okay. So that's it. I just wanted to take you through enumerations and the switch statement, and hopefully you found that helpful. Okay, until next time.